Good morning. We will call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Wednesday, November 13th to order. Let the record show all commissioners are present. Our first item this morning will be our opening ceremonies, Pledge of Allegiance. All right, our first item this morning will be the order of business. Is there any additions or corrections to the order of business? Mr. Solacek.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. There's no change to the order of business.
Okay, with that, I would look for a motion to approve the order of business.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. The other item this morning will be the minutes of the previous session, which would be September 11, 2024. Any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Move to approve.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We'll move to item 3, our regular agenda. This morning, our first item is a final major plat. FLP-018-2024. This is to consider a final major plat for the Westridge 4th subdivision, being a replat of lots 3 through 15, Block 6, and a replat of the Westridge First Edition lots 1 and 17 through 12 of Block 1, located in the southwest quarter of Section 31, Township 140 North, Range 96 West, City of Dickinson. The site consists of approximately 1.51 acres. And Ms. Burchek looks like we'll handle that this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. As was mentioned, this is the final approval for the Westridge 4th Edition Major Subdivision. It's a replat of lots 13 through 15 of Block 6 of the replat of Westridge 1st Edition, Block 1, lots 1 and 17 through 21. According to the applicant, the purpose of this proposed subdivision is to construct 9 units with 7 townhouses on individual lots and 2 units on 1 duplex lot. The 7 townhome units on the individual lots will be sold to the applicants, and the duplex units will be rented out to the developers, or by the developer. The site is currently zoned medium density residential, or R2, and the proposed subdivision is roughly 1.51 acres. And there is somebody from this subdivision. The applicant's here to answer any questions, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
Thank you, Ms. Burchek. Mr. Schrank, do you have any additional comments? Okay. I think we looked at this preliminary at the last meeting. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff or the applicant? If not, we can move into the public hearing. All right. We will now open the public hearing regarding this plat application, FLP-018-2024. If anybody has any comments or concerns regarding this application, please come forward to the microphone, or you can call into 701-456-7006. Anyone in the public have any comments or concerns regarding this final plat application? Hearing and seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion. I'll move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of FLP-018-2024 Westridge 4th Edition Major Plat as meeting all the requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code and also being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We will move into item B this morning on our agenda. This is a final minor plat, FLP-019-2024. This is to consider a final minor plat for the Divernick First Subdivision, being a replat of lots 5A, 5B, and 6 in Block 3 of the Country Oak Estates Second Edition, located in the southwest quarter of Section 28, Township 140 North, Range 96 West, in the city of Dickinson. The site consists of approximately 0.72 acres. I think, Ms. Burchek, you're handling that also.
Thank you, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. As was mentioned, this is a minor subdivision plat for the Divernac subdivision. It's a replat of lots 5A, 5B, and 6 in Block 3 of the Country Oaks Estates Second Edition. According to the applicant, the purpose of this proposed subdivision is to divide Lot 5B and combine the south 58 feet with Lot 6 to construct a detached garage on an already developed lot. The lot is currently zoned medium-density residential, or R2, and the proposed subdivision is roughly 0.72 acres. This realistically could have been a administrative lot combination, except for the fact that it had been split previously in the past, hence the names Lot 5A and 5B. I am here to answer any questions that you may have about the subdivision, and staff recommends approval of this subdivision.
I think our vicinity map on here is incorrect, probably.
This map is correct. I believe there might have been a mix-up in the packet. This is the correct map, though, that's
Okay,
projected.
This one shows off of Allard Street or something. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that one got in there, but
Okay.
this is the correct one.
All right, thank you. All right, any questions for staff regarding this minor subdivision plat? All right, if there's anybody in the audience from the applicant that would like to say anything, you can come now. All right, hearing none, we will move to the public hearing portion. We will now open the public hearing regarding this final minor plat, FLP-019-2024. If anybody in the public or online has any comments or concerns regarding this application, please come forward. Once again, you can call into 701-456-7006. Anyone in the public have any comments or concerns regarding this application? Seeing and hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bullinger?
move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of FLP-019-2024 Vernac final minor plat as meeting all the requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code and also being in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Schwab? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Our next item will be a special use permit, SUP-006-2024. This is to consider a special use permit for a kennel located at 10-493 Highway 10 in the city of Dickinson's ETZ. The property is legally described as a tract in the southwest quarter of Section 34, Township 140 North, Range 95. The site consists of approximately 2.5 acres. Ms. Burchek.
Thank you, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. So the applicant is requesting approval of a special use permit to construct a kennel at 10-493 Highway 10 in the city of Dickinson's extraterritorial zone. In addition to overnight boarding, the applicant will also be providing pet training and pet daycare. The lot is currently zoned rural residential, or RR, and the proposed subdivision is roughly 2.5 acres. Staff has received multiple letters of support for the applicant, as well as a petition of complaint signed by a majority of the surrounding homeowners. And as it is, staff recommends approval of this special use permit. And the applicant is here to answer any questions as well. Subject to conditions that are listed in the end of the staff report. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Burchek. Any questions for staff, commissioners? All right, thank you. If the applicant would like to come forward and make any comments? Morning. Can you please state your name for the record?
Good morning. My name is Nevaeh Barranco. I'm here to request a special use permit to operate my dog kennel business, Plum Creek Canines, at 10493 Highway 10 in Dickinson. I understand that this proposal may raise some concerns, and I want to be completely transparent about the operations of my business. My goal is to offer high-quality services that benefit both dog owners and the surrounding community. As recommended by zoning planning, I did contact Al Heiser about the road and traffic, and he had no concerns. I was raised on a ranch, so I deeply value peace and quiet, and that's one of the concerns I've heard. I will be personally living on the property, so any noise will be kept to an absolute minimum. I do not want to hear barking any more than anyone else in the area. This will be achieved through structured schedules of outdoor exercise, one-on-one interaction, strict rest times, training, and enrichment. So this will result in calmer, quieter, and better behaved dogs. This business model was designed by the American Kennel Club to reduce overstimulation, anxiety, and boredom, which are all the main contributing factors to barking. Although I set the maximum number of dogs at 35, this number does not reflect my daily intake. I anticipate an average of 5 to 10 dogs per day. The number was set just to provide room for training and potential future growth. The typical daily intake will only reflect what I'm able to manage without causing a nuisance. I'll be implementing a double barrier system consisting of gating, fencing, doors, leashes, and secure kennels in order to prevent any escapes. When dogs are not being directly supervised, they will be kept in indoor secure kennels. These will not provide any access to the outdoors. So dogs will only be allowed outside singly or in small supervised groups of compatible temperaments to prevent any out-of-control behavior. Because dogs will not be receiving free access to the outdoors, this time result in more running around and sniffing than barking. The cleanliness of this property is a top priority for me because, again, I will be living there. Dog waste will be picked up daily, bagged, and disposed of according to MGM Rural Sanitation's guidelines, who I have spoken to. Spot cleaning will be conducted daily in order to keep up with general messes. All dogs are required to have up-to-date vaccines, including rabies, distemper, kennel cough, and parvo, and they must pass a behavior and health assessment prior to being admitted into care. I understand that some neighbors have been concerned about having a dog business nearby. I operate a similar business right now from my home in town with no complaints from those who live near me. However, I have received many positive comments and support from neighbors, clients, and just people within the community regarding the operations of my business. Several neighbors and clients have shared letters of support commending my business's positive impact on the community. I believe that this new facility can offer our community much-needed access to dog training and kennel services. I've spoken to a lot of local kennels, and they're almost completely booked pretty much year-round. It's hard to get any dogs in. And a lot of residents in this area appreciate the chance to have additional resources as far as kenneling and training. Plum Creek Canines can help meet this demand, giving families reliable, quality dog care close to home and reducing issues like nuisance barking from unattended dogs. I do believe this business can be a positive addition to the local economy, both directly through my services and indirectly by supporting other local businesses. Additionally, this property will allow me to continue volunteering as a leader of a local free dog training 4-H group for youth. I'm fully committed to operating Plum Creek Canines in a way that aligns with the standards and expectations of our community. My goal is to be a considerate neighbor, addressing any concerns you may have as we work together to enhance our area. I appreciate the support I've received from this group and this opportunity to expand my business. I'd also like to thank the many neighbors, clients, and community members for writing letters of support. Some of these letters came in over the last handful of days, so I want to make sure that you all receive them, and if you're not, I do have some extras so you can read them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barranco. Any questions for Ms. Barranco? Commissioners? Were all the letters of support in our packet?
Yeah, there were a few that were emailed later.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I did see that. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Barranco?
Actually, I have a question.
Sure.
I know you've had this discussion with us before, but can you just recap your insurance
Yep.
process for the kennel?
So I'll be going through Kennel Pro, and they cover everything on the property, and as far as if I take dogs off of the property as well. I believe, yeah, they cover completely on the property, off the property, and any damages that occur from the dogs within my care.
Thank you.
And you reviewed the conditions set by staff, and you're okay with everything?
Yep.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Ms. Barranco? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This time we will now open the public hearing regarding this special use permit application. If anybody in the public has any comments or concerns regarding this application, please come forward to the mic or call into 701-456-7006. Good morning.
Good morning, Bonnie Warm, happy resident. Can I pass this now around? So thank you for the opportunity to address you all. We are here to address the proposed special use permit for a commercial dog kennel facility in a rural residential area just east of Highway 10, just east of Dickinson on Highway 10. The neighborhood we're talking about has 9 rural residences bordering Highway 10 on the north and south sides of the highway. The properties vary in size from 1 to 4.5 acres. The subject property is neither the smallest nor the largest property in this neighborhood. It is not pretty far east of Dickinson as stated in your information packets. It is on the edge of Dickinson in the ETZ zone. As one of the near neighbors of this property, I'm very opposed to this for several reasons. Firstly, a commercial dog kennel has no place in a residential area. It's very close to town and would negatively impact negatively impact the quiet use and enjoyment of every homeowner in this neighborhood. This residential area was set up as a residential area and has been that from at least as far back as 1982, and I believe that was the original intent. It is a quiet and peaceful place to live and should stay that way for the residents that abide here. Secondly, it seems inappropriate to put a commonly very noisy type of business into a residential area. Embedded in a property owner's bundle of rights is the right to enjoy their property peacefully without noisy nuisance interference and the legal grounds to seek remedy. Day and night barking is common with this type of business. You would be hard-pressed to find anyone living in a residential area that would choose to have a business of this type next door, except for those that would realize huge financial gain. Thirdly, all the homeowners, every one of them has signed Actually, let me start over. Thirdly, all homeowners in this area have built equity into their homes and property and most likely would see a huge drop in the desirability and the appeal of their investment, making it harder to sell their properties in the future, and when they do, probably see huge decreases in their offer prices. I was told in my letter from the City of Dickinson, all residents within 300 feet were sent a letter informing us of this proposal. I believe there's 8 properties that Dickinson deemed as affected. Included in your packet on the subject is a petition opposing the special use permit, and every one of those properties has a signature opposing this endeavor. The person requesting the special use permit has included letters of affirmation for her growing business. A doggy daycare, which she now has, is very different from a boarding facility, and her proposed plan maps out a very large outdoor dog run. The indoor space she references is only the start of her plan, according to her own application. Commercial dog kennels do not belong in a rural residential area. She also stated that in her letter dated October 14th, that adjacent property owners have been contacted about the proposed special use permit, with no concern being voiced as of that day. Most of us were made aware of this application in a letter that arrived on the 31st of October, not the 14th. Of course, there was no voices of opposition. We didn't know anything about the proposal. The letter I received from her came on the 8th of November. I do realize Southwest North Dakota has a need for more facilities of this nature, but the noise level and nuisance of this type of business should be located far out of town and outside of a residential area. If you would not vote to have a 35 dog kennel next door to you, I urge you to not put one next to me. Please, in the interest of all these property owners, deny this permit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the public have any comments or concerns?
Good morning. My name is John Schneider.
Good morning.
I have one of the homes almost directly across from this. Right now it's peaceful, and we really liked it out there. So I'm building another home just a little bit further to the west, which is included in this area. You should all have a copy in your packet of all the people surrounding that have signed that are against it. I don't know, do you all have that?
We do.
Okay, thank you. Some of the things that I want to address is that Nevaeh's property in Dickinson is day only. She's saying it's similar. It's not similar in any way. She has a special use permit for up to 8 dogs. 35 dogs is a lot different. I've been around kennels that have 30 to 35 dogs, and you can be the best caretaker there is, and when one dog barks, they all bark. And if you haven't heard 30 to 35 dogs barking at one time, you should hear the noise. It's terrible. That would take away our peace and quiet from all this neighborhood. And I also am not against dog kennels, but put them where they belong. Outside of that, we have a lot of support here that is against it. We have everybody that circles this property that is against it. Nobody wants it out there. And the comments I had from most of them, it isn't that they're against dogs or dog kennels. It's just not the place for it. You know, I wouldn't have built a second home out there or in the process of building it if I thought I was going to get some dogs across the property. Not just some, possibly up to 30, 35 dogs. Now, the dog run area for future use, from what I understand from our drawing, is the whole lot eventually. That means their dog's going to be running out there. And it isn't something that I don't think any of you would want close by you. I ask for your support to deny this, because I don't think you'd want it near you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Anyone else in the public have any concerns or comments regarding this application?
Not a good speaker.
That's okay. Just state your name for the record,
I'm
please.
Florence Kunz, and I've lived out there since 1971, 72 it was. We were the first people out there. Since we've been out there, it's been a very peaceful, quiet place. My concern is you still have wildlife and everything there. She says these dogs are very quiet. Anytime you have cows, other dogs there, there's going to be noise. And I have nothing against dogs. We've had dogs all our life until the kids left home. And I know what dogs are like. And I have no problem with dogs, 2 or 3. We have a breeder that's just west of us that has dogs. We can be out in our backyard and we can still hear his dogs. But he takes good care of them and they're still far enough away they don't affect us. So I am very opposed. I mean, I know you need dog kennels, but you don't need it next door to my property. And I, like John, would like to know how many of you would like a dog kennel right next to your property? That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Kuntz. Anyone else have any comments regarding this application?
I have thought of some more things. Now, if this is okayed, and we've got a lot of barking dogs, do we have anything we can do about it?
Mr. Zlotchek, do you want to take care of that?
So the process would be, if we receive complaints, ultimately then that complaint can go, be presented to the city commission, and ultimately then it would be the city commission's directive to possibly cancel or revoke that permit. That's spelled out in our municipal code.
Thank you. And some of the other concerns I had are dog waste, there's gonna be a lot of waste from 30, 35 dogs. Are we gonna have that odor around there? I know some of the people in our neighborhood, they can't take it. They get by some dog feces and they practically throw up. So is that gonna be a problem?
I think,
And will the city do anything about that too also?
I believe she addressed she has a plan for that, I believe.
Yeah, inside the packet that, in the staff report, it includes basically her process for managing the waste, I guess, and she can speak to that in
Right.
more detail than I can. But that would be part of the complaint side. If there's odors or things like that, you could present that to the city commission.
Well, I understand she had MGM garbage, and we've had that for a while too. And in the wintertime, we go sometimes months, and when there's a lot of snow, they didn't take it. Another thing, that road coming out of that property is at an angle. It's right over a hilltop. I have helped Ed, when he was alive yet, a number of times, pull out some vehicles and help them clear that road a little bit. That really gets blown in. So are we gonna have a bunch of people going in and out of there that are stuck and possibly causing accidents or something pulling out, taking a run through the snow? That's another thing to concern. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Anyone else have any comments or concerns? Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dawn Pruitt, and I have a 2-year-old chocolate lab that has been utilizing Miss Bronco's services for the last month and a half, and all I can say is positive things about her services. I work Monday through Friday, get home, I'm exhausted from work. I have a chocolate lab that has bounds and bounds of energy. And so the services that Nevaeh has offered to me has been exceptional as far as keeping my dog healthy mentally and physically. Prior to her services, I was fearful for even taking Scout for a walk for fear of injury. He's pulled me several times down. It's been a relief to be able to walk my dog now without having pulls and breaking off leashes. As far as the last comment on traffic, Nevaeh offers a pickup and drop-off service. So she comes, picks Scout up in the morning, drops him off in the evening. So I don't think there'll be additional traffic or complaints that way on her new facility or special use. As far as being a healthcare provider, I know the benefits of having a pet as far as decrease in stress levels, decrease in anxiety, decreased blood pressure. I think that only holds true if the dog itself is mentally and physically healthy. With Nevaeh's services, that's able to be accomplished with dogs. As far as barking and having a lot of unhappy dogs at a kennel, I think that with her business layout, as far as mental stimulation, exercise, and training, I think that is avoided. I think dogs only bark if they're bored, if they are not mentally satisfied. As far as where the kennel is located next to residents, I understand concerns. However, I would much sooner have Nevaeh's kennel next door to my house than my neighbor's barking dogs. As far as what her services has done for me in the past month, I've been able to get back out in the community to volunteer, where I hadn't been able to do that in past times just because of time allowed to spend with my dog after a full day's work. So I appreciate that. And what an opportunity Dickinson has for a young professional to start a business here in Dickinson, something that's much needed, and cannot say enough about her services. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the special permit approval. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Ms. Pruitt? Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Carolyn Morowski. I'm a Dickinson resident, and we have gotten to know, our family's gotten to know Nevaeh through the Stark County 4-H program. She offers dog training for the youth of our county, and my daughter and our dog have greatly benefited from this program, and I can only credit Nevaeh and her training skills for that. We are relatively new dog owners. This is my first time owning a dog, and she has been a wealth of knowledge. Her training skills are impeccable. Our dog hardly ever barks. And I just want to express my support for Nevaeh and for this business. It is definitely needed. We have had a very hard time finding any overnight kenneling for our dog, which greatly impacts our family. And so I just wanted to offer my support for her and ask for you guys to approve this. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Allner. I'm a Dickinson resident. I've known Nevaeh for the last couple of years. I first met her in high school when she was an aspiring young junior handler. I've been showing dogs and training dogs for the last, probably don't even want to admit how long, but at least the last 15 years. I've had multiple dogs titled in the AKC, both for obedience, rally, scent work, therapy dog. I've done confirmation shows, and I've even had dogs go to Westminster. And I've worked with Nevaeh the last couple of years, and I've really watched her grow and watched her grow this business. Living in Dickinson, it is very tough to find canine facilities that are well run, well put together, and provide enrichment and training for dogs. Part of the biggest reason dogs bark is boredom. I live in apartments, so I completely understand the residents' concerns about barking. Nobody wants to hear a barking dog. To myself, to the point to where I don't own breeds that will inherently bark. So I don't appreciate a barking dog any more than anyone else. But I will say, through her training program and the enrichment that she'll provide, it's not as if 35 dogs are going to be running through the property like wild animals, just running amok and barking and having like this big party that we see in Clifford books. The dogs will be well contained, they'll be well trained, they'll be properly supervised. To address the waste issue, I know Nevaeh has provided the information for you guys through the waste management system that she'll be utilizing. And there are alternative methods as well, which I'm sure she has covered also. And I do think that Dickinson would benefit greatly from having this type of facility due to the lack of facilities that we have in our area and our growing population. In order for us to survive as a community, we need to grow. Sometimes their growing pains are a little bit tough, but a lot of times it can be for the greater good. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, members of the board and neighbors. My name is Susie LaFour, and I'm a local realtor and a passionate dog lover and a longtime advocate for animal care in our community. Many people in Dickinson know me as a go-to resource for dog care, rescue, training, and boarding. I'm here to speak on behalf of Nevaeh, who is pursuing her dream to open a dog training and boarding facility on this property. I'm very passionate about this for her, as it's always been my dream also. This is not only her dream, but a need that I see constantly in our community. As a realtor, I often hear from locals who are at a loss, searching for quality care and boarding for their pets. Our current boarding facilities are frequently booked, especially on weekends, and many of my clients and friends must make arrangements far outside of Dickinson, going as far as Bismarck and Billings, just to ensure their dogs have a safe place to stay. I do know some of the local boarding facilities as of 2 weeks ago were already booked for the Christmas holiday, if not all of them. This facility will fill a vital gap in the community by allowing more families to keep their pets nearby. We're also supporting our community and our local economy. The properties my clients are proposing as a boarding facility could be a game changer for our community. Located just outside of town, this facility would be close enough for easy access, but far enough to maintain a peaceful environment for the neighbors. With natural tree coverage separating the facility from nearby residents and also a busy highway separating most of the neighbors. It is an ideal setup that will minimize any noise impact. We did take a monster-sized speaker out there and maxed it out and put multiple and we have it if anybody wants to listen to it. That is a concrete building, and as far as the noise, we didn't even leave the the property and could not hear the speaker. Pardon me. I want to add that I know this family personally for 25 plus years and can vouch for how responsible and dedicated they are. Nevaeh and her family are committed to the highest standards of care and will adhere to stringent health and safety standards. Sorry, I'm not a good speaker. Including proper waste disposal and cleanliness. They truly want to provide a valuable service to the community. This facility is not just a business for them, it's a heartfelt commitment to serve our local families and their pets in a way that prioritizes safety and respect. Let me assure you about the operations of the setup of this facility. This is a managed boarding and training facility, not just an outdoor kennel. The dogs will be indoors for the majority of the time, and they will only be in outside enclosures under supervision. In the event that there is noise, staff will promptly bring the dogs back inside, minimizing any disturbances. The property is on 2.5 acres, which provides ample space, and they will take every measure to ensure that operations are respectful of the surrounding neighbors. The facility will also offer training services that can help pet behavior, which benefits not only pet owners, but the entire community. A well-trained dog is less likely to become a nuisance or engage in problematic behaviors, adding to overall neighborhood harmony. I want to also offer some perspective. In Dickinson, it already allows 4 dogs. If I or anyone else lived next door with the 4 dogs in outdoor kennels and not a controlled environment, it would probably be worse. The difference with this facility, like I said, it's highly controlled and supervised, designed with the utmost care and responsibility for the animals and respect for the neighbors. This goal is to offer a needed resource to the community and support the local families who continually run into dead ends to try to find boarding for their pets. I want to add, as a realtor, there was some concerns about resale value. I really do not believe that this dog boarding facility would not negatively impact resale values. The facility is set back behind the road, shielded by tree rows on both sides and hidden behind the primary residence, making it virtually invisible to those passing by. Given the strategic placement and the fact that there are already commercial operations nearby, there's an RV storage facility next door, a trucking company right adjacent to John Schneider's property, I believe this would integrate smoothly into the landscape without diminishing property values. In fact, the design and professional operation make it far less intrusive than some of the other businesses in the area. It's not visible nor disruptive. In my professional opinion, it will blend into the community without affecting the appeal of the value of surrounding areas. Thank you for considering the special use permit.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
LaFleur.
you.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Missy Barranco, and yes, I happen to be Nevaeh's mom. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share today. First, I just want to acknowledge that we very much as a family and supporter of Nevaeh's business understand the concerns brought forth today. These are the same concerns any of us would have as neighbors, and why her plan is so detailed in mitigating these concerns. These were also, I want to remind the committee, the same concerns that were brought up when she came with her initial permit for her property that she lives at in Dickinson. And I also want to highlight a few letters. I know you received the letters, and we apologize. Those letters kept coming in. You may have continued to receive emails. But one of the letters in particular is from her neighbor who lives directly on her fence line, and this is what they wrote. Our properties share a fence line, which also happens to be the same space where the dogs are exercised. We have not had any problems with sharing a fence and wouldn't have even recognized it as a dog business, except we see her with different dogs every day. We can attest to the level of care and professionalism they bring to their business. Throughout this time, we've had no issues or concerns related to noise, safety, or cleanliness. Nevaeh is committed to ensuring that the dogs are well managed, and they have consistently followed city guidelines to minimize any disturbances. Based on our experiences, we have had no concerns. Additionally, one other letter I just want to highlight is, if you remember when we were here last time, we had a neighbor who lives right across the street from where her current business is, who came and spoke out against the boarding and training facility. And this neighbor also submitted a letter, and she said, when I learned there was a notice sent to me of pet care business wishing to open on our block, I was hesitant to allow this for several reasons. I publicly opposed this, but have since come to realize she has proven she has a safe, clean, and professional business, as well as very good care of pets. I have nothing but good things to say and encourage the city to permit on a larger property. And so I think one thing that I really hope you take in consideration is she has been operating a business right in a highly residential area that shares fence lines with neighbors and is across the street from neighbors, with no complaints. Lastly, I want to highlight one other letter in the packet, and because I know there's been comments about a commercial kennel and some of the feelings around that, which I think sometimes come to us from movies or things we see, maybe past kennel type businesses. But Nevaeh has been working very closely, understanding the importance of having a well-managed boarding business. And one of the partners she has is from a kennel operation in Bismarck, who she's worked closely with, gotten ideas and suggestions from. She's gone there, been at their facility. She wrote, Ms. Barranco's facility will not have outdoor runs, which greatly reduces the noise impact on local neighbors. Bed and Biscuit has no outdoor runs, is located in Bismarck, and we have many neighbors that are surprised that our building is a kennel because an all-indoor facility has minimal noise that can be heard outside the building. Dogs tend to be fairly quiet during group plays outside because they are supervised and busy chasing, smelling, and burning off energy. Ms. Barranco has been doing a great deal of research to ensure location, building design, and operations are appropriate for the area to create a minimal impact on surrounding neighbors. So this is from a business that also in her letter you will find is continually getting contacts from Dickinson residents saying, I can't find these facilities here, and people are taking their dogs to Bismarck. And I think as a longtime resident of 43 years of Dickinson and the surrounding areas, I think we want to do our best to keep our businesses local. And we had another person who was going to present, and she had to leave for a meeting, but she takes her dogs to a kennel in Lincoln because she can't find that service here. So again, I want to, validate the concerns. We understand the concerns. Like I said, my husband and I have lived in this area for 43 years. We were blessed to raise our children on a ranch in a rural area. We've taught them the values of hard work, and we appreciate rural life, peace, and tranquility. Nevaeh is looking forward to this business. We're excited to support her as a way to being a great neighbor and providing a valuable business in the community. I also just think, if you're leaning towards a no vote, what I would encourage you to kind of really think about is how is a young person supposed to start a business when, she's gone through the steps, she started it small, she got through the process, she had no complaints, is looking at expanding because she's continually getting calls for overnight boarding and additional training. And to know that it can be shut down by fears, which we understand from neighbors, but that aren't valid towards her business plan. The things that the neighbors are concerned about the barking and the cleanliness, she has provided information on why that will not be a concern. And so I really encourage you to think of that and know, again, that we were here a while ago, had concerns, and those neighbors are now writing letters of support saying, we recognize now that this is different, and how she manages her business is different than what we thought it would be. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Barranco.
I just want to say again, thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I kind of want to reiterate the whole issue with barking. I understand that's a concern, and again, like I said, I don't want to hear barking either. I understand why that would be a little scary. knowing that there's going to be a kennel nearby, but I will operate using the same structure that I currently use, and all of the neighbors have shown support of the fact that there's no barking, there's no nuisances, there's no hassles like that. And I will be using that same structure within this kennel. Like I said, 35 seems like a scary number, but the average number of dogs I will have, I would say 5 to 10 dogs a day. And that is right around what I have currently. Currently I'm allowed up to 8 dogs, and I'm consistently pretty close to that number. And I have had no issues with neighbors right next door, right across the street in a very tight rural community. Again, I have set a plan for dog waste, and I have had no complaints as far as where I currently live, again, with a neighbor right across the fence line, and I've had up to 8 dogs every day. And if there's any other questions, I would love to answer them while we're still here.
Nevaeh, I have a question.
Yep.
You mentioned the 35 dogs, and I think earlier it was mentioned that number is being set for future growth. If day one on this property you had 35 requests for 35 dogs, would you be able to handle it at this point, or that's not even realistic to handle right away,
At this
right?
point, I wouldn't even attempt to handle 35 dogs, no.
Right.
I would like to start, again, at that 5 to 10 range and grow within the next couple of months as I see fit, as I'm able, again, to actually manage and keep quiet. I will not take on more dogs than I can handle without becoming a nuisance to the local area.
Correct. My second question would be, in the event that you take on a dog and whether it wasn't caught in your pre-screening process or whatever, and you have continual issues and you're seemingly not able to get a particular dog to behave in the way that you think is respectful to neighbors and to the other dogs, what does that process look like if in that scenario?
So if that were to happen, a dog would be unmanageable, whether it is randomly aggressive or it's barking or it's just a nuisance in general. What would happen is I would immediately contact the owners of it, and in the future they would not be able to come back until they were further screened, further done training, that I could ensure that they would not be a nuisance anymore.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Commissioners, any other questions for Ms. Bronco?
I just have a follow-up question, not necessarily for you, Nevaeh, but just in general. For special use permits, are they usually annually reviewed and we discuss them? I know in some situations that they do come back.
Mr. Slotchik, do you want to?
Most special use permits are not like an annual review. I'd have to check with Stephen, I guess, if, okay, yeah, I don't recall ever issuing a special use permit that has an annual review assigned to it. We do have some that give presentations, but not a renewal, I guess. So that has been something that has been done in the past, is like a presentation or an update to the commission, but
I thought specifically at Nevaeh's first presentation that there was a yearly condition. Maybe I'm misremembering that too, but I thought I remembered something along that lines, but
because it was kind of
yeah.
mirrored off a presentation or an update in regards to the business operations.
Maybe that's
any
what it was,
incidents
yeah.
Or complaints that were received, but I could be mistaken.
Do you have anything else, John?
I mean, that's certainly something that you could add as a condition, would be some kind of an annual review or a renewal if it was a concern of the board, so.
Mr. Joseph, didn't we approve a kennel just to the west, 150th, there a couple years ago, the county?
Steve Josephson, I here as a county planner since Commissioner Franchuk, requested that. Yes, a number of years ago, before this area went into the extraterritorial zone, it was a kennel, and that's because in the county's zoning ordinance, there isn't a dog daycare as defined in the city's residence. I looked over those conditions recently. I think that she limits the number of dogs that she has there to 10, I think, and the size is limited to, I think it's up to 20, 25 pounds, something like that. So, and she keeps them in the house and in her garage. So yeah, technically it's considered, it was labeled a kennel, but the conditions limited, and this was the applicant actually came forward and said, this is all I want to do is small dogs in these limited places, and it really acts more as a dog daycare. And I did share those conditions with city staff, So yes, you're correct, there was something called a kennel, but it was a little, it was different than what the applicant is requesting.
Have we ever received any complaints from that?
No, during the time it was still in the unincorporated county, we had received no complaints, and actually now that property is in the extraterritorial zone. It came into the extraterritorial zone when the 4-mile expansion occurred.
Is that the property directly to the south? I guess on here it would be this.
Right, that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just
you're
wondering 'cause-
indicating, yes, you're indicating that property.
Yeah.
Yes, it's on that, I forget the owner's name, but yes, that's the property you're referring to.
Okay. Because I was doing some research on where the facilities are, and that was one that came up, was one that was already in this subdivision, so I was curious. But most of the other ones that I saw were pretty much on their own, at least. I think the smallest one I saw was 6 acres, so.
Right, and as I said, that one was conditioned, that was part of the reason it was approved, was because the conditions in there. Essentially, like I said, the city, I don't know if that would be, now that it's in the city's extraterritorial zone, if that would be considered more of a dog daycare, but it's not anything like Boomers or you know, or the Germanson operation, you know, out in Taylor, so.
Thank you.
Ms. Bronco, I have one more question. In the transition, what is your plan? Do you currently have employees right now, or as soon as you make that move, will you be adding additional employees?
I do not plan on adding employees as of right now. In the future, if I find that there's a need for me to have additional staff on hand, I am open to it. But as of now, no, it'll just be me.
And in the future, if you were to hire employees, is there like a training process or certain requirements that they have to meet?
So there will be a full onboarding training process in order to become one of my staff members. I don't require necessarily any sort of specific experience or education, just because that kind of stuff is limited within this field of work. But there will be a requirement that you go through the complete training of how to manage dogs, how to break up fights, how to keep behaviors from coming up like barking and becoming a nuisance like that, yes.
And as a recap, you have not had any issues with current dogs at your current facility?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Bronco, I have just one question. I mean, I think the concern mostly for the neighbors, what I'm hearing, is the number of dogs you're requesting. So I know you've said it several times, you won't have 35 dogs at once. I mean, is there a compromise here where we could restrict that number for the first year, and then maybe after you have a year under your belt, come back and ask for an expansion of your permit to that number?
I would be willing to go down to 25 for the future year and expand from there.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, commissioners, have any questions for Ms. Bronco? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public?
So the kennel you asked about, that one is zoned agricultural. It is not zoned rural residential. And yes, we do hear those dogs. And no, we don't complain, because in my experience, it doesn't do any good to explain or to complain. It makes sense to stop things from starting. And a dog kennel, a commercial dog kennel, does not belong in a residential area. She says no outdoor dog runs, but you'll look in your package, she's got a huge outdoor dog run slated. So we're not talking about how she's doing in her doggy daycare. We're talking about an outdoor commercial dog kennel. And again, I ask you, would you want one next to you? If it's so quiet, why doesn't she have it in town where she's at? Please don't approve a dog day kennel in a commercial, or a dog overnight kennel in an residential area. You don't allow it in R1, you don't allow it in R2. Why in the world would you approve it in rural residential?
If you look at the map, all the land around that is ours, my husband and mine. If this community is really developing, now, if you look down, 3 sides of that property is ours. So if you were to want to develop it, would you really want to develop it right beside a kennel or right behind it? Not only that, she says it's so far out of town. We live 3 miles from the city limits. That's not very far from town. And she says that she has quiet dogs. I've been around dogs all my life. Anytime someone comes around, they get excited, they bark. So how is she going to prevent this from happening? So this is my concern, because we could develop this. You don't have it developed, but who's going to develop it after this?
Thank you, Ms. Kuntz. Anyone else in the public have any comments? Good morning.
I'm Kimberly McGarvey. We live directly across the street from this property. We also have the home away from home, whatever it is, pet sitting behind us, and that is, in the summer, you sit out there and you hear those dogs bark. And I don't believe that there's a ordinance in the county, a noise ordinance, so that's why we don't complain. I'm not opposed to a dog kennel, just not in a residential area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGarvey. Anyone else?
I'm Don Hushka, and I live directly pretty much across the street from this property also. I don't think not one of us in that neighborhood is against Nevaeh or what she wants to have to do. I think we all actually kind of look up to her for taking the steps to do this and to do this properly. But in the city of Dickinson, if you've got a noisy dog next to you, you call local PD, you call the animal shelter. I don't know who you're going to call. Out in the county, who are we going to call? We're going to call the city and wait for the next meeting? And I do think she probably has a very good business, but you cannot compare her business in town to her business that she plans to have out in the country. Jody's dog daycare facility, whatever it is, she has 35 acres or 30 acres, and she is bordering the interstate. So she doesn't have neighbors behind her or anything else like this property does. There's other properties surrounding Dickinson that can be bought. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hushka.
This is Missy Barranco again. I just wanted to address a couple of quick things. We Nevaeh did due diligence early on and tried calling people and trying to get a hold of people. And unfortunately, there's 2 neighbors who are not here that she talked to that had informed us about the home away from home and that they are adjacent to that, and they've had no complaints and no concerns on that property. Nevaeh has also spoken to Jody, and Jody said she would be thrilled to have Nevaeh there because she is turning away people. And so I appreciate again, and I know this is a lot of fear of the unknown, but I did want to comment that fortunately those neighbors are not here today that had shared that when I talked to one in particular, and she said, oh yeah, we would have no complaints because we had no concerns with this one either. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barranco. Anyone else? Mr. Schneider?
Thank you. Since I've been building my house alongside of my property, I have had 3 people that wanted to be on my list to buy that home. Now I have none, if this goes through. So that is definitely going to lower the value of my property for the house I live in now and the house I'm building. I built a number of homes in Dickinson, and one of them where I built by, they have a barking dog. We've called the city. They put it inside for a day or 2, and then it's back out. I try to talk to my help. I go out there and I build homes with my workers, and I try to talk to them, and this dog is so loud. It was when we built a house alongside of them. We couldn't hardly hear each other most of the time. There's no reason you got to put up for that noise, even in the city, and we sure don't need to put up with it in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Anyone else have any comments or concerns? One more time, anybody else have any comments regarding this application? Seeing no more comments or concerns, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Yes, I'll take a stab at making a motion. I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval subject to the identified conditions, as well as limiting the number of dogs to 25 for the first year, as meeting all requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code and also being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I second.
Any further discussion?
So looking at this, I looked at the boarding facilities that are out there now. They're mostly ag from what I see, I guess, and 6 acres. What I did see was most of them are out on their own, and so I don't know if there is a concern there. The majority, I guess, the ones that I saw were outside of South Art, outside of New Raddick, and then Boomers is outside of Dickinson. It's the ones I looked at, I guess. There are some homes that are near Boomers, but otherwise the other 2 are out on their own. So that was the issues I saw with the current facilities versus this. They just seemed like they were on their own acreage, and I believe it's all ag, correct? But I don't know. But that's my issue with this, I guess. So.
And I kind of tend to agree too. I understand the need. I've tried to board my own dog, couldn't find it, had to fly with it. But I have a hard time approving when we have so many people in that area against it. I think Nevaeh is one of the most professional people I've ever seen come up here at such a young age, and believe she's probably going to do a great job with this facility. And maybe the compromise is this number of dogs, but I just see there's a lot of surrounding people around this property who are not in, approval of this, and that's, to me, a more important issue. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents on it.
All right, any other comments, commissioners? I think we'll probably take a roll call on this one, since it might be close. All right, if no other questions, I will call the vote. Ms. Decker?
Aye. Yes, sorry.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Franchuk?
No.
Mr. Johansson?
No.
Mr. Haugen?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
No.
That makes it 4-3, so chair votes yes, it'd be 5-3, motion carries. All right, we will move this on to the city commission. Everybody that's in favor and against will have another opportunity to discuss this at the next city commission meeting. There will be an open public hearing at that meeting also regarding this use permit, so we'll move on. Thank you. Next item on the agenda this morning is item 4, public issues of concern not on the agenda. If there's anyone in the public that has any issues of concern that is not on the agenda, please come forward. Anyone in the public has any issues of concern not on the agenda, please come forward and state your issues. Seeing none, we will close the public issues portion. Commissioners, any items that were not on the agenda you'd like to discuss this morning? Any any items that are not on the agenda you'd like to discuss this morning, commissioners? All right, we close that portion. And then we will move into item 6, our work session this morning. We have a KLJ presentation on the comp plan and the transportation plan update. Ms. Burchak.
Morning, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. So today we have a just quick presentation about the progress made for the comp plan and transportation plan updates. This has been done by KLJ. They've recently been wrapping up their first draft for the existing conditions portion of this comprehensive plan. And just wanted to give you a quick update before we also go to City Commission, just to inform you of what progress has been made. There's a smaller packet that was, or a smaller summary that was included in your packet, as well as a 90-page draft that I had emailed to you guys, I believe yesterday, that was submitted later. So for this presentation, I would like to turn it over to Joel Quanbeck from KLJ.
Thank you, Ms. Burchak. Good morning, Mr. Quamback.
Good morning, Commissioners. I sit through a lot of planning commission meetings, and it's fun to see you in action. Appreciate the courtesy that you show everybody that you're seeing. I would like to briefly summarize what's on the slideshow, basically, right? Is that what you've got there? Okay. Well, then I'll just give you a quick verbal update and reference for you that the 90-plus page packet that you received is available for your bedtime enjoyment, or if you're very interested, your daytime enjoyment. I want to just highlight, first of all, that KLJ is teaming with Apex Engineering in the development of the Transportation and Comprehensive Plan. Apex's role is focused on the infrastructure, sewer, water, and they've been instrumental, as I'll bring up in a little bit, to talk a little bit about part of how the future of the city growth might look. In the packet, what you received, first of all, was a map that shows the study area. The study area includes all of the 4-mile extraterritorial area, and it also squares off beyond that so that we can look at some key issues that we think are probably especially related to future transportation systems, sort of like the bypass that you already have. The next slide talks about population and gives you an overview of the elements that were evaluated or researched in developing the existing conditions report. Probably the main thing to point out for you there is that there is a table that shows you the range of decade growth on an annual average basis. And that number stems from like practically 0 all the way up to around 4%. And of course, if you've lived here for any length of time, familiar with when that 4% happened. The following slide talks about existing land use. We document that just so that we can provide a background for how we think about where the city has grown and where there are gaps or where there's vacant land. And that will be a part of the process we're just undertaking now, which is starting to develop the future land use map. A following slide talks about the residential development pattern, and it shows where you grew when, and it tells its own story about how the city of Dickinson has grown. And the following slide talks about housing and shows you basically a map of the type of housing that's there, and that's part of the story as well. And then you get to a map that we typically call the stoplight map, for the obvious reasons that you've got green, yellow, and red that indicate the level of development activity actually the level of investment that's probably needed before you can see development happen on the property. So the green is showing you parcels that are going to take very little additional effort in order to see development on. The yellow shows you where there's some minor infrastructure improvements needed, and the red shows you where there would be major infrastructure improvements needed for that development to happen. On the following slides, you see 3 different maps that represent an understanding about focus that needs to happen for the transportation part of the plan. The first one shows you information about, at a regional scale, what the issues are probably likely to be. And most of them pertain to freight or traffic movement. There's a little bit of operational concern on I-94 and one of the interchanges. The next slide is showing you the, the corridor level. And one of the major concerns that we heard was essentially the ability of traffic to move easily through the city north to south. And so those three main corridors that you see in colored lines help you to show the main focus of those. And then the downtown area is the other corridor area. And then the final map on transportation is just showing you that there are some neighborhood concerns that we'll also be evaluating. These pertain more to connectivity between neighborhoods and special concern areas like the schools and how pedestrian conflicts might exist in those areas. In the much more detailed document, there are several maps that point out areas where we can identify safety concerns. We also had a conversation with the Parks and Rec director, executive director, about his perspective on some of the key issues, and his most major focus from my perspective was ensuring that there's good connectivity with the Parks and Rec facilities, which basically means addressing trails or sidewalk gaps. We are working with the Parks and Rec department, or district in a sort of a parallel process. Their planning efforts is going to be continually paired with ours. And so what we just did was talk through goals and objectives and get his perspective or their perspective on that particular element of the document as well. I want to just close by saying that right now we did include for you several slides, or pages that talk about overviews of the existing, the early public engagement. And first of all, we had a lot of public engagement, and I think maybe one of the main things to point out was that we got public engagement through a lot of different mechanisms. And if you look at the one bar that shows the time frame from early April, I think it is, through the end of May, you can just see the activities that we undertook at that time. We had over 1,000 hits on our web, the project website, and I think we had over 300 or more specific people comment on specific things through some of the non-key stakeholder comments on different aspects, and including some discussion on various parts of our survey that we completed. Those are all there for you for your review. If you have specific questions for me, I'd be happy to try and answer them. And we just thank you for your attention this morning, and I appreciate your involvement in the planning process.
Thank you, Mr. Kornbach. Any questions for him this morning?
What are the chances of getting a bound copy of this?
We can get that printed out for you.
Yeah.
So I don't, if there's like a general head nod, we can get printed out copies for everybody and just make them available.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
C&E, yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. I think that concludes our agenda for this morning. Unless anyone has anything else, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion and second. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.